You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we're getting more automotive publicity in Fab Facts.
An old enemy is back with a brand new plan in the Randomiser.
and part 2 of Keith Shackleton's interview is hot off the presses.
That's all coming up in Pod 244
of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Well, hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
You all right? Hello. Yes,
you
testing.
Can
1, 2,
never
test.
say hello
Oh.
too many times.
Oh, I think you can. I think you just did.
Okay, I withdraw one of my hellos, but still, greetings. I hope you're well. How
Yeah.
are you, Podstron? You're doing all right? Okay, good. Well, I hope your week continues to be even better. We'll try to
just
make
a
it
minute.
so. Yes.
You're getting very intimate and personal with the listener.
Well, the listener singular.
Just
Yes.
the one.
Well, this is for the benefit and enjoyment of all Podsterons. So,
Okay, well, that's nice.
we appreciate you, Podsteron. Thank you. I hope you're smiling right now. And if
Yeah.
you're not, then
Well-
give us a little smile. Go on.
Could you?
No, don't touch them. That's weird.
Oh, God, is it? Oh, sorry.
Anyway, the inappropriately touchy gentleman over there is Richard James.
No. You can't say that. You cannot say that. I've got a career to think of.
Oh, okay, sorry. The appropriately touchy gentleman over there is Richard James.
Hello.
I'm Jamie Anderson. Hello.
Yes. Hello.
And also joining us later will be Chris the Randomiser Dale.
Hello.
Yes. Hello, Chris.
Hello, Chris.
Where he'll be bringing a random episode of a random Gerry Anderson episode series thing to your ears, and he'll be making
Yes.
more sense than me.
Again.
Again,
Yeah.
not tough, is it? But there's loads of other things coming up very, very shortly. And my dear co-host, the appropriately touchy Richard James.
No, let's just leave the whole touchy thing out of it.
Okay.
Please.
My inappropriate co-host, Richard James, will now take you through some of the things you can expect in this here podcast.
I'm never going to work again, am I? Well, we have got some news a little later on, because as we know, there's always something new happening in the worlds of Gerry Anderson. We've got part 2 of Jamie's, or rather, it's an archive interview, isn't it?
It's very archivy, yes.
That's right, Keith Shackleton.
Yes.
Yeah. You see, I have to think very hard. You know why? When I say that name. Because in
Ted
my
Shackleton.
mind, exactly. So I have to think very, very hard about that. Then we've got some Fab Facts coming up in just a moment.
Or just one.
Just the one, yeah. And I think that's all. Yes, the Randomiser. And then, of course, as ever, people have been emailing us at podcast@gerryanderson.com. So it would be rude not to read out their emails. They've also been posting on our Facebook group, the official Podsteron listeners group. So it'd be rude not to read out some of those posts. And they've also, would you believe it, been tweeting us and hashtagging us, Gerry Anderson Podcast, and tagging me, Richard and James. Him over there, I'm Jamie Anderson. And him over there, standing by the big red button, Chris Dalek. So I might as well read out some tweets as well. That's all coming up in the next hour and a half.
Goodness me, yes, it does go on a bit, doesn't it?
Well, it does, yes.
In the nicest way possible.
Oh, yeah.
Now, since you're in the mood for not being rude,
Right.
because you said it'd be rude not to do all these things,
I see.
think it'd be rude for you not to enjoy Fab Facts.
Fab Facts, yes. Okay, all right. Go on.
Excellent. Here comes a truly enjoyable Fab Fact.
Lucky I'm an award-nominated actor.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
A Fab Fact that Richard James will obviously find truly
so
thrilling,
exciting.
enjoyable.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah? Can you try a bit harder?
Yeah, oh yes, I'm so excited.
All right, too much now. Anyway, it's Fab Facts. I've got a book of Fab Facts. Richard will excitedly shout Fab at a random point during the flicking through the book with my hopefully sort of mid-moist thumb today. And that will land us on a Fab Fact, which I'll read out for you, and hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Okay, yeah. Go
Sound
on,
all
then.
right?
Yeah, sounds all right.
Moist thumb at the ready. Is your Fab there?
Yes, it's standing by.
Good. Then here we go.
Fab!
Oof.
Hey.
Nice and central.
Oh, as ever.
Oh, that's very strong. There's a picture of Peter Wingard on this page, but it's not the one I'm reading.
Okay.
So, Richard James,
Oh, yes.
have any of the cars that you have owned in your lifetime been famous?
No.
Not even a make or model or anything like
No.
that? No.
No, not particularly. No, I don't think so.
Never a star of stage or
No.
screen?
I've just basically had a long line of very boring Vauxhall Astras.
Brilliant. Okay,
Yeah.
fine. Well, you're not alone there, I suppose, because most of us probably can't say that we've had a famous car,
No, sure.
but we know of one person who could say they had a famous car.
Okay, just the one, yes.
And that
go on.
claimant was
Yeah.
Reg Hill.
Okay, yeah. Go
So,
on.
Reg, if you recall, Podstrons, was a director of AP Films, late Century 21, and the third member of Group 3, along with Dad and Sylvia. Reg was, by all accounts, an extremely talented art director who contributed heavily to the designs of vehicles like Supercar, Beauty, obviously, and
Oh, yeah.
Stingray, iconically. And he was instrumental in getting the early Super Mario Nation series off the ground as well. In subsequent years after that, Reg took a kind of more supervisory role in the studio. And
Yeah.
by the time the live action series came around, some crew reported rarely seeing him, since he dealt more and more with the administrative duties around the studio. So, although he may have missed out on some of the benefits of some of the more sort of hands-on work, Reg's rank did have some privileges.
Right.
One of them
Yeah.
was to own
Yeah.
the star car from, drumroll please,
Yes, what? What?
the Protectors.
Okay, it's a star car.
Woohoo!
Right. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Harry Rule's sporty Jensen Interceptor actually belonged to Reg Hill.
Lovely.
Some people have speculated that this was just the producers trying to save a bit of cash by using a personal vehicle instead of hiring a car for the job. Several Rolls-Royce motor cars appear in the Protectors, and one of them, which appears more than once, actually belonged to Dad. It was his own
Okay.
personal blue Rolls-Royce Phantom, I think. So yes, you see that on screen quite a lot. Others believe that Reg purchased his car from the production at the end of filming. However, at the time of delivering this fab fact, we can't say for sure which is the true version of events.
Oh, I
A
see.
little bit of a mystery there.
Yeah.
Anyway, Reg went on to work with Dad on Space 1999 before he decided to scale back his workload and spend some more time with his lovely missus. He continued to do freelance art department work, contributing to films like Superman and Life Force, before eventually retiring. The car has circulated in private collections for many, many years, and according to some sources, is currently being restored by an unknown private owner.
Oh, I see.
So, Podstrons, do you have any more information about the Harry Rule / Reg Hill Jensen Interceptor? Or perhaps there are some other screen-used cars that were actually the private property of studio staff. If you know anything about these mystery vehicles, then please do send us an email to podcast@gerryanderson.com.
That's interesting. Now, you say it's sort of been handed, passed on from person to person, bought and then bought again. Would the fact that it's, a screen-used car from the Protectors, the famous, you might think, Harry Rule's Jensen, would that be what makes it so collectible, or is it a collectible car anyway?
I actually have no idea.
And you'd think that perhaps its starring role in the Protectors is just like a side note, perhaps.
It's the cherry on top, isn't it, really? I don't know. I would imagine that it's more likely that there are Jensen Interceptor collectors than there are Protectors collectors who are desperate to own that Jensen Interceptor. But I could be wrong.
Sure.
It could be where those two things meet. But if you know anything about the car's whereabouts or have any other interesting fab facts connected to screen-used cars, please let us know.
Oh, yeah, please do. That would be nice.
There you go.
Interesting.
What was it? I mean, you said
No,
you
what's
didn't enjoy
interesting?
it.
No, I'm just looking at the Hoomobile I've got parked next to me in the garage here where I record the podcast, thinking, I suppose that was screen used.
You probably
wasn't
should
it?
have mentioned that up front.
Yeah, I just still see the dirt from underneath John Pertwee's fingernails on the steering wheel. Yeah, interesting.
You could clone him with that. Anyway, as we can discuss cloning Doctor Who actors next week.
Yeah,
but
okay.
for now, I think that brings us to the end of this week's
Car fact!
Of course.
I mean, we probably had car fact before. I mean, we had Hudson last week. Did we use car fact last week? I don't know.
I don't remember. It was
I can't remember that
a long
far
time
back.
ago, that week ago.
Exactly. Now, talking of Fab Facts.
So what are we going to say then? Yes.
Yeah. Well, Joe Hollis on Twitter moments ago found for £3 in Oxfam a copy of Gerry Anderson's Fab Facts by
yes.
Simon Archer. Surprisingly, says Joe Hollis, not as weighty a tome as it sounds when Jamie Anderson is flipping through it on the Gerry Anderson podcast.
Yes.
Interesting.
But that's because I've got the upgraded version.
Oh, I see. Oh, have you? Have you?
You know I have.
Yeah, have you?
You've
Have you?
seen it.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Here it is. It's much thicker than that.
It is. Oh, look at Fab. Oh, you see, no, you set me off again now. I can't. It's like a Pavlovian response.
We're not doing another one.
No. Now, look, I'm heading straight over to our email postbag because we've had, well, a dribble of correspondence this week.
That's a horrible word.
Hardly a bumper crop this week, but that's fine. That's forgivable. Simpsons Clips 24 has got in touch to say, hello, Richard and Jamie. Simpsons Clips 24 here. Now, don't worry, he says, I'm not going to ask you anything Lavender Castle related this week.
What?
So you can put away the microphone disguised as a plant pot. Instead, I thought I'd ask you something Terrahawks related, what with it being the 40th anniversary of the show. I recently got my mitts on a Terrahawks script that didn't seem to have been made into an actual episode, and it didn't have a title either. I'm thinking of adapting it into an audiobook with a title referencing a certain Twilight Zone episode, as the plot features a gremlin attacking Spacehawk, which leads me to ask, is it ever established how high above the Earth Spacehawk is? SIG, Simpsons Clips 24.
Well,
these are the questions that we need to know the answers to.
That is a very specific question, and I do not have the answer to it, I'm afraid.
What?
However, I can tell you that the script that you're talking about, I believe, was written by the lovely late David Nightingale.
Oh, yeah.
And the gremlin-y creature is called Kizzy, I think, from memory.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and we were going to adapt it for the Big Finish audio books, for the audio dramas.
Nice.
But I think we decided it was just a little bit too visual in nature to really make it work. But there you go.
Ah, okay. And it was an unmade episode, was it, that was written and just never produced?
David had written it for a proposed fourth series, which was also going to feature big Snowhawk vehicle and Seahawk and all these new vehicles that never made it on screen. So there you go.
Gotcha. Martin Laybourne emailed to say, hello, chaps. I've been working my way chronologically through ITC's TV productions, thanks to the marvellous back catalogue from Network. I was watching an episode of the ITC 1964 series Espionage, and like other fellow podstrons, I keep an eye out for actors who've also appeared in Anderson productions. No one stood out in this particular episode, but I thought I recognised the voice of one of the children. Blow me, says Martin. In the end credits, the name Len Jones appeared.
Aww.
Yes, the voice of Jamie's favourite son, Joe 90. This appears to be Len's first ever TV role, which was originally broadcast on the 25th of January 1964. To my surprise, he also made an appearance 3 years later in Sam Peckinpah's notorious and unsettling film Straw Dogs, of all things. Keep up the good work, all the best, from Martin Laybourne, brackets, one of the few podcast reviewers.
Thank you, Martin, or Lartin, as Richard called you there.
All right,
Lartin
spoonerism.
Laybourne.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, good. Well, there we are. Len Jones cropping up in 1964. Very good.
Yes.
Good spot.
Yeah, I mean, a very recognisable voice, actually.
Yeah, apparently so. And, well, finally for this week, I did say it was a bit light, James Morris. Hello, Richard and Jamie. In fact, he's written hello, Jamie and Richard. But
you switched it.
Yeah, I did. I love the podcast, and I'm a big fan of all the vehicles in general. But if I could choose only one to drive or fly around in, which is a question we asked last week or the week before, then it would be the police cruiser from Space Precinct, as it would mean no traffic jams, and it would look really cool taking up 4 parking bays at work. Lol. Loving the podcasts, and look forward to more fantastic Fab Facts. Well, we're all looking forward to that, James. All the best, James Morris.
Cheers, James.
Well, I would
Lovely.
agree. I mean, the police cruiser, it is a great design, a beautiful thing, I think.
It is.
Yeah, really nicely
you know
done.
what? When I think of it, I can hear that landing wheeze sound.
That's right. Yeah. And the doors flipping up, the gull wing doors and all that.
That sound design was quite good, actually, wasn't it? I really,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
that.
Yeah, lovely. There it is.
Of the landing. Oh, brilliant. Anyway, I'm
there we
reminiscing too much about police cruisers in Space Precinct.
Well, that's what we're here for. If you can't do it here, where else can you do it?
Yeah, this is a safe space for all sorts of nostalgic reminiscences. So please do feel free to do that as much as you like.
Yeah. So there we are, all for now, but do keep them coming in. Email us at podcast@gerryanderson.com with your thoughts, comments, reviews, questions, and I'll read them out next time.
Excellent. I look forward to more.
Excellent.
While we wait for more,
Yes?
do you want some Gerry Anderson news?
Have you got some Gerry Anderson news?
I can make some up.
Oh, what? Make some up?
No, I'm going to read it off a script.
Oh, I'd love it then.
Okay, here it comes. Yes, indeed. It's the fully scripted Gerry Anderson
News. Even that bit's scripted.
Even that bit is actually, it says it here, doesn't it? Yeah, Jamie and Richard, : news. You're supposed to do it again then, but never mind.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry.
Because
I thought you were
that
reading
bit
it out.
wasn't scripted.
Exactly, yeah. You've gone off script now. You've gone off piece. You see.
Anyway, I'm going back on the script.
Oh, okay.
So let's start with some slightly annoying news. I mean,
Yes.
it's annoying for everybody, really, but annoying for you, Podstrons, annoying for us. I'm going to read this from the website.
Okay.
We are sure that you've noticed that a lot of things are more expensive than they used to be. Food, materials, transport, essentials and luxuries alike. Mm-hmm. Stuff is costing more to make and more to move, and sadly, we here at Anderson Entertainment are not immune to those changes. So I'm afraid that means that from today, the 13th of February, we are increasing some prices, particularly shipping charges. Now, I was just saying to Richard, we are paying nearly 2.5 times as much for shipping and handling as we were 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Things have changed so much, and we haven't really increased our prices for shipping. So the only way that works is we take the hit for the difference. But that's no longer something that we can do. We know that everybody hates price rises, and we've done our best to keep them down for as long as possible. If you were on the newsletter or on the website, we gave you 4 or 5 days heads up before we did this change. But just so you know, things that are changing from today: shipping charges, an increase in our free shipping threshold, some of the costs of our third-party products and publications, our manufacture-on-demand clothing, and some pre-order products are going to go up in price. The things that we're keeping the same: books that we publish, audio dramas and audiobooks that we published, digital downloads, and our stocked products that we produce ourselves.
Okay.
Because we've got some more control, more leeway there. So
I see.
We're doing whatever we can to keep the prices down. So we apologise if that affects you in any way, and we totally understand if that little change pushes it to a point where it's inaccessible.
Yeah.
We're doing what we can to make it more accessible. And if you're outside the UK, we are working very, very hard to find warehousing partners so that we can hold stock locally to where you are, particularly those of you in Australia and New Zealand, because we know there are lots of you. Those in Japan, and also inside the EU as well. We can't do it all at once, but we are doing our best. So thanks for your understanding. We've had a lot of lovely emails from people when we gave the warning about that price increase.
Sure, good.
And everyone's been very understanding. So thank you for your understanding.
This is the world we live in now, isn't it? Unfortunately, for the time being, at least.
And we hope that at some point those prices will come down, and when they do, we'll reflect them as quickly as we can.
Yep.
Anyway, let's move on to brighter things.
Oh, good.
Today is World Radio Day. Did you know that?
Is it?
The 13th
I did not
of
know
Feb?
that. No, what happened on the 13th of Feb?
I don't know why it's just you.
Is it the first broadcast from Alexandra Palace or something?
Maybe. Should we say that?
Okay. You don't know, do you?
No. Anyway, it's World Radio Day.
Okay.
So obviously, podcasting, that's great because we're sort of radioing in a way, aren't we? It's a derivative of radio.
Yeah.
And also, obviously, all of our audio books and audio dramas, it's a good day to celebrate those. So we've released some audiobook and audio drama bundles on the Gerry Anderson store. You can save some money there, which is nice in the wake of us increasing prices elsewhere.
Yes.
So there you go. That might cancel it out. Just go to shop.gerryanderson.com and have a look there. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow, Richard.
Oh, stop it.
Just saying.
Stop it.
All right. Goodness me. It's also Lois Maxwell's birthday. Lois Maxwell, Atlanta Shore.
Yes.
So that's a rather lovely thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Also, another lovely thing, hopefully later this week, we're going to be reading on the Gerry Anderson website an interview with you about your latest 5-Star 5 book.
You're going to be reading an interview?
Well, people will be able to read it, is what I'm saying.
Have I done that interview already?
No, you're doing it shortly.
Oh, I see. Okay, fine.
Okay.
I don't know, just do what I'm told. Okay.
Thank goodness you do.
Yeah, right. I see.
There's also a load of other stuff coming up on the Gerry Anderson website this week, some more news and interviews and various other bits and pieces. There's also something interesting being announced, I think, over the weekend or early next week. A pre-order coming up for something which a lot of people have been asking for, something which hasn't been available for about 10 years.
Oh. It's not the...
Don't say it.
Orange. Oh no,
it's not. It's nothing to do with Space Precinct. I can tell you that much. Anyway, so keep your eyes out for that. And as we are doing every month now, just gone on the 10th of February, we were celebrating Terrahawks, so we put up a documentary on YouTube, the Terrahawks Story. So you can go and watch that. Totally free. You might have to watch an ad or something from YouTube, but otherwise it's totally free, and you can get all the insight into how Terrahawks came to be and all that good stuff. So
well.
Yeah.
Now, talking of 5-Star 5,
yes.
I don't know if you follow Big Finish on the various social medias or if you're a subscriber or on their email list, you might have read, I think it was this month's issue of their in-house magazine called Vortex, which features news of upcoming productions and interviews with actors and directors and writers and so on. Well, there is an interview concerning the various Gerry Anderson releases, and they mention 5-Star 5, but they give something away.
Oh, do they?
They do. That I'm not even sure is in the public domain.
Oh, really?
So there.
Oh, well, you're not going to say anything, are you? I'll have to go and read it.
No. I'm just saying. The truth is out there.
In Vortex.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, there you go.
Good. All right, well, I look forward to that.
I have to say, it is something that if you were to buy the next 5-Star 5 book, The Doomsday Device, when you come to the last line of the book, you will know what I'm talking about.
I know in that case what it is. Very good. Very good.
There you go. Yeah, it's good to be, secretive, isn't it?
It is. Yes, we do our best.
It's fun.
Yes, there you go. Go and read that in Big Finish's Vortex magazine. Anyway, I think that's it. I haven't got any more.
No, that's it. I'm spent.
Good. Well, excellent. That's the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the news. Secretive news.
It's not very secretive when you're talking about it out loud, is it?
Yeah, but we held certain things back, didn't we? So that was the secret.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, nice.
I tell you what isn't a secret.
Yeah, go on.
Well, the fact that the Podstrongs have their own official listeners Facebook group, and it's the friendliest place on the internet to hang out if you're a Gerry Anderson fan. That's no secret at all. We all know that.
It's official, isn't it?
Yeah, and as if to prove a point, I could read out some posts now. For example, Simon White posted a picture of a rather creepy-looking doll over the last few days. I don't know if you saw this.
Sure it wasn't a picture of me as a baby?
No, not quite. And he wondered if it was the Bride of Torchy.
Ooh.
A rather creepy-looking thing. A bit of context, he says. The doll is called Little Miss No Name. It was made by Hasbro back in 1965, and the idea was to pull on the heartstrings of little girls and guilt-trip them into buying a doll modelled on a sad, homeless girl. Most dolls being modelled on infants, fairies and princesses, etc. Unfortunately for Hasbro, the toy proved to be unsuccessful, since consumers did not gravitate towards her depressing premise, as well as the fact that she looked so unintentionally creepy, and production ceased the following year. And it's quite a spooky-looking thing, I have to say. So yes, the Bride of Torchy lives. Alex Patrick said, I wonder if Lady Penelope is going to cameo in the new Barbie film. Warner Brothers slipped Stingray into Aquaman, as we know, in 2018, and both characters are dolls, technically. Okay. Yeah, could happen. Paul Hyder says, well, she'll have to join the end of the line. That's a barbecue joke. Thank you, Paul.
Oh.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Age Swatridge says, will we be getting the Stingray soundtrack on double vinyl like the others? I need this in my collection, but rather on vinyl, not CD. And Deck Goodhall says, I concur.
Yes, I believe it will be coming out on vinyl. Ooh. It's just that the machinery for doing 12-inch vinyls is so overwhelmed. There is a huge backlog. Right. So Silver have decided to stick to their original schedule with CDs and then release the vinyls as they become available. So
okay.
There will be soon.
Sonia Wild says, I'm starting a new role-playing game on Wednesday. It's a fantasy police procedural. But now, thanks to the podcast, I can't think about the police captain without hearing Podley's voice.
Well, Richard's Podley's voice.
Yes,
which is very good. Very good.
Well, it's unique, certainly. Let's put it that way.
I think it's brilliant.
We've already heard from Lartin Mayborn, as I'm now calling him,
Yes.
who spotted Len Jones on something he was watching on TV. Well, Roger Morgan posted in our Facebook group, "Do fellow Podstrons get as excited as I do when I'm watching a TV series and an unexpected reference to the Anderson verse pops into view? Such an occasion was on Sunday's The Saint episode, The Man Who Liked Toys, from 1964. The pre-title sequence shows Roger Moore as Simon Templar in a toy store where he picks up a Fireball XL5-shaped toy and promptly fires it upwards, possibly through the roof and into orbit as you don't see it return. I remember having an XL5 toy like this that you could launch from a catapult, and it returned to the ground via a parachute, so it brought back some childhood memories." And that's Roger Morgan. Isn't that lovely?
Nice.
Yeah, gosh.
Roger Morgan.
Okay, let's move on from that. Do pop along to our Facebook group if you're on Facebook. I wouldn't say it's worth joining Facebook just for that, because
No.
But if you're there already,
You're already
why
on
not
Facebook.
pop along? Yeah, answer a few questions. We'll let you in, and you can join in the fun. People post their merch and their fan art and drawings and their cosplay and all sorts of stuff. I did see someone this week has managed to get hold of a Space Precinct medic costume. Screen used, which is now part of their collection. So,
Bloomin' heck.
that's good, isn't it?
Amazing.
Keith Gooch, I think it was, who says he's got to lose a few pounds before he can fit in it.
Oh, well, it's a good reason, I suppose, to do
good
it.
to have a goal, isn't it? That's
Exactly.
right.
Well done, Keith.
Yeah. So there we are, all for now, but more Facebook postings next week, I'm sure.
Oh, well, I look forward to them. Anything else you'd like to share before we move on to Keith Shackleton's, not Ted Shackleford's contribution?
No. No, let's hear from him. Come on, I'm excited for part 2 of his interview.
Okay, fine. Well, we had part 1 last week. This is part 2, and there's part 3 next week.
Oh.
All sorts of insights you probably won't have heard before because this has never been played out in full. And yet here we are. Keith Shackleton, the man behind the merchandising empire of TV Century 21, long-time friend and colleague of Dad's. He's back to share more memories and recollections from his time with Dad and the Century 21 team and beyond. It's Keith Shackleton, part 2.
Gerry mentioned at the time the initial figures, the first day or so, were very, very poor, the first half a day, whatever it was. And you actually had an emergency meeting on that place because you can't do wrapping miles now.
Well, there was not time to wrap it. I mean, the reality was, the events were moving so quickly that certainly the prospect of closing it might have been considered. But it would have been such a major decision, and City magazines, I think, with their experience, and they were highly experienced people, said, hey, well, okay, you guys, let's meet again next week. So Saturday, we thought we had a disaster. By the middle of the following week, we knew we had a success. So there was the major decision. I mean, certainly, I don't think it was it contemplated? Probably, but not seriously, I don't think. Not seriously.
Whose idea was it? It was going to be like a tabloid style.
Well, it was going to be a newspaper. I mean, it was a newspaper, and it was post-dated. It was dated into the 21st century, and that was part of the charm because we ran a dateline which was 2000 and whatever it was. I can't remember the dates. So, the style of it, the front page was newspaper style. So we had banner headlines, and so we wanted it to be different. Most comics of the day had strip cartoons on the front. We had real stories. Well, we put them across as real stories, and they read like real stories. So we were treating our readers like young adults, which of course they were, and they latched onto it. And we got a lot of acclaim for the creativity of the whole project.
Closely involved was Gerry with the running of the magazine. So.
Well, the answer, we were all involved. I mean, people say you can't create in committee, but I think with the right committee, you can. And we were all sufficiently relaxed and free-thinking that we could take ideas on board. And I don't believe anybody had the monopoly of the creativity. And we'd sit down, and Gerry, he was there, sure. I mean, he was there, but he was very busy making films too. But if ever we needed an inspiration, we'd find an excuse to have a lunch together or a bottle of wine or whatever, and we'd sit round and talk. And it's amazing what you can do across the table with a few like-minded people. And we were all pointing in the same direction. Nobody was concerned about ego, I don't think. I mean, film credits are a different matter. But, we were all enjoying the success. That's the way I see it. And it came through, I think, in the series and indeed in the product. And enthusiasm is a wonderful attribute to have. And you can't, if you've got true enthusiasm, it's very difficult to contain it. And it was almost self-fulfilling. And we believed in ourselves and had tremendous energy.
You came up with the idea of the records.
Well, we were doing the shows and we were commissioning the music. Gerry commissioned the music with a wonderful guy called Barry Gray. A story about Barry. I met the Bishop of Blackburn. I said, I've got some very interesting information to impart to you. He gave me an old-fashioned look. I said, yes, I know a man who did the music for Thunderbirds, and he learned his musical skills on the organ at Blackburn Cathedral. So that is true. Barry was from the northwest. He ended up living in Neasden in what appeared to be a conventional house with his sweet mother, and the only thing conventional about the house was the front door. You'd go in, and it was a recording studio. I think they had a place for somebody to sleep, but the whole place was packed with equipment. And Barry was the first. He had the first synthesizer. It was French. It was called a Martinet, I think. Doesn't sound quite right. But he had this instrument, looked ostensibly a piano, but you could do a whole range of instruments on it. So that was the first synthesizer, professional synthesizer that I'd ever come across. So we did, the music was commissioned, and I said to Gerry one day, do we get anything out of the music? He said, no, it's all bad. I said, oh, really? So I went out and found a music publisher, Toff. David Toff, he was president of the Music Publishers Association, had an office somewhere in Connaught Square. And we did a deal, without upsetting Barry, whereby we got a piece of the music, which was, I think in today's term, people would understand. So that was the beginning of our dabbling in music. When we became part of the ATV group, we were introduced to Pi Records, and they were very successful in those days. And they brought a lot of expertise to the music activity, to the point that it brought in-house. They had a music publishing company. I can't think of the name at the moment. But out of the contact with Louis Benjamin, we created a joint venture record company called Century 21 Records, would you believe? And we did a whole series of EPs, I think they were. And then we did some LPs. One of the first LPs we did was Journey to the Moon, based on Fireball XL5. And I had the pleasure of handling that. I got hold of Patrick Moore, who was our scientific advisor. We had lunch in the green room in the Strand somewhere. So we brought him on board, and we wrote this story about this little boy dreaming about going to the moon. And, of course, the vehicle to take him was Fireball XL5. But Patrick brought reality to it by bringing all the right the scientific and technical aspects to the show. Still got a copy of that record somewhere.
How did Thunderbirds increase the popularity of the merchandising?
Well, in a word, exponentially, I think the city might say. It was quite dramatic. I mean, people were taking note of us because with each successive series, we had Supercar, we had Fireball XL5, we had Stingray, and then Thunderbirds. We were on the escalator, and we could produce magic. So everybody applauded Thunderbirds. They loved it, and I think that was probably the peak of our creativity and success. Certainly for me, I think that was absolutely marvelous. And it was known around the world, and Japan was. It's still a major force in Japan, is Thunderbirds. There are a lot of devotees, and they keep playing it and playing it and playing it.
What sort of items of merchandise were available here for the kids?
Well, probably the most successful item, and I mentioned it before, was individually was Lady Penelope's car. That was, as a standalone item, was incredible. Probably then Thunderbird 2 with the pod, and that was a piece of genius. Whoever designed that, you had the basic frame and then the pod that dropped out. Those. Then we had the puppets themselves, which slightly, if you like, there was a company called, I was going to say Esoteric, I think I mean that. They were produced by a company called Pelham Puppets, and they were very close to our roots, really. They were traditional puppets, and they were collector's pieces. I think everything, there were some failures. Thunderbird 5 was not an inspired piece. I mean, it was a bit contrived, I think, as a device, so it didn't sell incredibly well. The publishing we've talked about. We did annuals. Originally we started with Collins, and then we switched into the News of the World group. I could dredge my memory, but the whole thing was a success. There were a couple of failures. You have to have those.
The kids all running around in sort of Thunderbird suits and playground.
Oh yes. It was almost embarrassing. Yes, they had the little bandoliers, the blue and the RAF style caps. Peak and other things. And we had badges, books, and sweets, and we had everything. I mean, every conceivable. I can't remember how many licensees we had, but they were literally knocking at the door. My job became quite different rather than from selling. It became a filtering job, trying to select the right people. Not always easy, because if somebody wants a license, they can be very persistent. But great time.
How intense was sort of Thunderbird fever with the kids?
Well, it was a family. People, fathers would take their children. I mean, whichever way round. It was rather like fathers playing with the train set. It was a must in families. They had to go and watch Thunderbirds because this was almost the highlight of the week for them. It sounds strange to say for a show of that nature, but it was really a very important piece of television, and I think it was different. There's nothing quite comparable in today's terms because there is so much there. There's nothing that stands out. I mean, Thunderbird was head and shoulders above anything else in its field, and it was a true family show. And your grandmother could watch it, your 3-year-old could watch it. Nobody could be offended, but everybody could be entertained. That's my view. Yeah.
Is everybody quoting their catchphrase?
Oh yes. Well, I think the one that Thunderbirds Our Go is probably the one, and FAB. They were the ones. They were a bit hackneyed, but they came through, and people. It was laughed. People either took it seriously or they laughed. We didn't mind which, and both were appropriate. It depends where you were coming from.
Sorry? Who thought about the catchphrase?
Well, I would say Thunderbirds Our Go, in my view, is undoubtedly Gerry. FAB, I can hear, so it must be Sylvia. It's got to be Sylvia. The two, it's a natural fit. So I would, Thunderbird. I mean, that's Gerry all over. Thunderbirds Our Go. It's that's Gerry all over. That's got to be Gerry.
Just touching on Sylvia for a moment, everyone gives Gerry obviously the credit, so much credit for what he achieved. How much contribution did Sylvia make to the whole thing?
Well, I think I said it earlier on. If you take the .com analogy and hardware and software, I think Gerry was the hardware king and Sylvia was the software queen. Separate them, and I think the whole thing lost some of its strength. Together, they were greater than the sum of their separate parts. And so the answer to the question, in my view, was they were essential to each other. Nothing would steer me away from that.
After just 22 episodes, just talking about Thunderbirds, everyone's got their own sort of favourite characters. Have you got your favourite Thunderbirds character?
Well, character, I probably... it was probably the Hood. It's a close call between the Hood and Lady Penelope. I mean, the Hood was so... He was very much a secondary character when he was cast, but he emerged as the villain of the piece, and he became quite important. Difficult to merchandise, but he was a wonderful sounding board for and a foil for the rest of the cast. I think Lady Penelope and Parker, and I'm sure Gerry told you that Parker was based on the barman at the pub in Cookham. Parker, I think, was great because he was a real person, wasn't he? I have a tremendous affection for them all, but the one I recall today, I say that I like the Hood, and I like the relationship between Lady Penelope and Parker. Those are the two, I think, that I would highlight.
Any sequences that the Hood was in, he was always actually very good. Anything in particular you thought that was?
Well, it was so, in a way, it was all so predictable what he was doing that it was all tongue-in-cheek. Yes, was it the Andaman Tunnel, which I'm never sure whether it exists or not. It sounds so convincing that I'm sure it does exist. I think he planted this bomb on the train, as I recall. Well, there was some dastardly deed about to happen. That was one, and of course in the opening episode he was responsible, I think, for the bomb in the plane. I can't remember the name of the plane now. But that huge aircraft, do you remember it? We did make a model of that, a toy. It was over-engineered, unfortunately, so it wasn't a great success. I mean, the concept was brilliant, but the execution left something. It was too technical for the age group, and it was not a great seller. 01 was it called?
I must get that back. It was the Fireflash.
Fireflash. Yes, thank you for that. Yes, we did make. We made a model of Fireflash. It was made in Hong Kong by one of the top factories, and I think they were trying to build something that would really fly. And in the 60s, that was very difficult to make a toy fly. So it was, in fact, over-engineered, and it didn't achieve great success. And of course, it had exposure only in one episode, unlike most of the characters and vehicles which kept coming up each and every week.
You remember that scene, what he was up to there in that pilot?
Well, yes, I think he was on one of the service vehicles. They were servicing Fireflash, and he got this. He had good reason to be on the tarmac, on the runway next to the plane. So that was his cover. And he taped this bomb in a very crude way, using masking tape, I suppose, into the undercarriage. Nothing very scientific or sophisticated about it. And it was time to go off at its whatever. I'm not sure whether it was pressure sensitive or time sensitive, but it was certainly going to do a fairly major destruction job on Fireflash. And that air traffic control sequence in that episode is pure RAF. I mean, it was straight out of RAF. Even the voice of the controller. It was brilliant, quite brilliant.
Tell us about the episode that features your bowler hat.
Oh, you asked me before which was my favourite episode, and I said, well, it had to be the one that featured my bowler hat. And people said, what's a bowler hat? Well, all thrusting young men in the 50s and 60s, well, certainly 50s, used to wear bowler hats. Well, at least I did, and I was very proud of my bowler hat. So came the props. They wanted to set this conventional office, and they were looking for a bowler hat. I said, hang on, and I produced my bowler hat. So that's my favourite episode.
After just 22 episodes, Thunderbirds was cancelled out of the blue.
Right.
What do you remember sort of the events surrounding that?
Well, I think there was, we're all human beings. There was an air of disappointment. We fully expected it to go on, and I believe it should have gone on, but it was driven by commercial considerations. The intention was that we would get on the network in the States, and I believe NBC, in fact I know NBC made a significant offer for it. And we'd been on the previous network deal we had was with Fireball XL5. That was we got on the network with NBC with that. So we had a precedent for it. But it ended up going on syndication, and on syndication the money is more slow, it comes in more slowly. And it was decided to produce yet another series. Well, it's incredibly difficult to create by command. I think creativity is inspirational, and if you're doing it to the calendar or the clock, it's not always easy. But that's what we were called upon to do. And Gerry came up with the idea of Captain Scarlet.
Well, with Thunderbirds, do you think was an offer actually made for the series?
I have every reason to believe it was, but I equally have every reason to believe that whoever took the decision at the time they could justify their decision. But with hindsight, I think we should have we should have gone with NBC.
How much of that did that have eventually in the decline of the Century 21?
I think at the time we probably didn't realise, but there's a turning point in any piece of history, and without being dramatic about it, but I think the supermarionation is part of history. I think that was probably a turning point. I certainly think things would have been different if they'd continued with Thunderbirds. I think even if they'd rested it and come back the following season, I think it could have been developed and built. I mean, there are talks going on today about making a movie of Thunderbirds, so if it's good enough for today, I think it would have been good enough for a further series in those days. It had the legs. It had the basic concept, I think, was right for continuing. So yes, I think it was significant, and probably more so than we realised, but we still had the drive and enthusiasm to go on with Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons and the new style characters, which at the time we all believed was right. But again, in retrospect, I think the characters should have evolved perhaps not quite so dramatically. We changed from caricatures to humanoid characters, which was probably a quantum leap, which it should have been, if it was going that direction, it should have been phased in. It should have been evolution rather than revolution. That's my feeling. But again, at the time, it was felt to be right, and Captain Scarlet was received with great enthusiasm and acclaim, but it was moving the program slightly to a slightly older age group, and probably changed the flavour of the licensing and the merchandise a little.
How big was the campaign for the merchandising?
Well, the campaign, it's driven by the number of licensees you have. And one channels some of the resource back into corporate advertising. But we heavily relied on PR, i.e. below-the-line activity rather than above the line. I think editorial has much more weight and is much more convincing than paid advertising, and we were getting very good word of mouth, good references in all the papers. We even had a piece in the Financial Times. Remember her name? Miss Black. She wrote about us in glowing terms. I think she referred to us as the next Disney corporation. Well, who knows? Could have been.
How would you compare then the popularity of the two series overall?
Well, there's no doubt that Thunderbirds was the peak. That was absolute, the top of the heap, without doubt. And then things moved sideways. Very difficult to maintain success. It's very difficult. I think it needed probably up to Thunderbirds, we had almost driven it by the seat of our pants. After Thunderbirds, I think it probably needed slightly more scientific management, and that wasn't available. And therefore, I think it brought about the decline. We had ATV initially. I always say the honeymoon was marvellous, but the marriage was not a success. That's the way I put it in the kindest terms.
How did the merchandising company begin to be sort of scaled down?
Well, I stayed on in the book, which I helped Sylvia do. I used the expression, I think the salt had lost its flavour. That's the way I put it. And I parted company at the end of the 60s, I think 69, I'm not sure of it. But Gerry had... we used to operate in concert. We had a club of 5. Gerry was the leader, and I was fortunate enough to be one of the members of the club, and I was very happy so to be. I remember going to see Mr. Jack Gill, and I said, Jack, I think the time has come. And we parted company amicably, and I left the company with a reasonable settlement and my Humber Super Snipe, which was my pride and joy of the day. Pity they didn't make them more solidly, because they rusted very quickly, those cars.
When was TV21 discontinued?
Honestly, it must have been either late 60s, early 70s. They changed the name of the company to ATV Merchandising and it was run by my number 2, Richard Cully, New Zealander, a very successful man. He's joint managing director of CPL now. But I met him in the early 60s when he was working for Tuckwell. Then he joined us because we had quite a team. We started life in Orme Court. We started life on the Slough Trading Estate. Then we moved to Orme Court, and I shared an office with Associated London Scripts, Vera Virtue, and all that wild mob. I don't know, Spike Milligan was there, and it was crazy. And then I went to Lou Gray. I said, we need more office space. I found this wonderful suite in Bush House. He said, go and have a look at this suite at the back of the Coliseum. And I went, gave him the keys. I went to see this office, which was the original office of the theatrical group, Stowe. And this place hadn't had a coat of paint in 50 years. And plenty of accommodation. There were cobwebs there, anaglypta paper, brown, and so we spent a few pounds on it, quite a lot of pounds on it, and refurbished it. So we had an office at the back of the Coliseum. The only thing I didn't like about it was the address. It was Mays Buildings, which I didn't. I'm rather stuffy sort of person, but Mays Buildings. I said I'm going to do something about this. So I canvassed local opinion, and I said, I'm going to get the name changed. They said, oh, you can't do that. I said, well, what have you got in mind? I think Mays Court, I think, is rather nice. So I wrote to the Westminster Council, and I said, canvass your opinion. And we'd like to change the name from Mays Buildings to Mays Court. I got this lovely letter back in 3 weeks, said, can't do it for the following reasons. One, we don't want to lose the association with Mr. Mays. And I said, well, neither do we, because it's Mays. 2, the eccentric club meet at the Red Lion and have done so since 1847. I said, well, that's not quite correct. I happen to be a member of the eccentric club and we meet in St. James's. And I demolished their points. And if you go down there, if you stand in front of the Coliseum now and look up, it is now called Mays Court. So I bought some shares in, I didn't back, but the A to Z of London A to Z, because they had to reprint all the copies to get the name right. But, so that's a bit of nonsense. So we had an office, I don't know how I got onto that, but we had an office in Mays Court, and that was where we were based when I parted company and set up my own operation, which had great success and great failure. Reformed Century 21 in 1975 with Gerry as a shareholder, and we built from 75, had an office here at Pinewood, built it from nothing to a very successful company. We handled all the licensing for ABBA. We did Paul Daniels. We did World Wrestling Federation, would you believe? WWF. Did Power Rangers. And then I thought the time had come to fold the tent. So I still got Century 21, and we've got another company called Century 22.
Great.
Ooh, more
Lovely
Keith
stuff.
next week, third and final part in pod 245.
Now, where's that interview from?
It's from John Huff's archive, so originally done for Mr. Thunderbird in around 2000.
Yeah.
Not used because of the quality of the video, sadly, but the audio is great.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely thing to have in our archive. So thank you to John and John's son Paul for making that available. We've got lots more in the archive, so over the next few tens of pods, I'm sure we'll hear more.
Great. Oh, that's always nice, isn't it? That's lovely.
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
It is. Now, over on Twitter, well, people have been merrily hashtagging us, Gerry Anderson Podcast, which is nice, isn't it?
It is.
Here are just a few of their tweets. River Sam has been listening to Pod 242, which featured the free Gerry Anderson audio adventure from Space Precinct. Everything
did.
must go. River Sam says, I like Space Precinct, so I'm glad to listen to this episode in this podcast. And people have also been tweeting about their favourite vehicles. We've been talking about that recently. Corvus Dorado says, I loved the mole. Brilliant it was. Urban Spaceman says, well, it has to be the mole, doesn't it? And Carl says, the mole.
Oh, how original.
It's true, though. There is something about the mole that's quite exciting and evocative, isn't it, for a young mind, I think. The whole drilling underground thing, I think, is quite exciting.
Yes, it is very exciting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Alto says, Gerry Anderson truly was the Disney of British entertainment, and his works are still as universal as ever. Yeah, they are universal as ever. I would also say timeless, that's the thing. Generally.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I think that's perfectly legitimate to say. They all kind of live in their own little timeless
That's
universe.
Right. Yes.
And so could still be enjoyed, even though times have changed.
Well, that's true. 5 Meter Stop tweeted, Gerry Anderson's animated reboot of Captain Scarlet was pretty good. Just a shame they let ITV schedule it. Yeah.
Yes, well, a long lamented thing, that is.
Yes. James Graham tweeted, when I was a child, my father and Gerry Anderson were friends. He was often at our house.
Oh.
Well. There you go. Tell us more, James. Isometrics and Afters tweeted A Life Uncharted, a wonderful documentary, pulling no punches, about a bloke whose work made a huge contribution to my childhood and still does today.
Ah, lovely.
That's good, isn't it? We do carry these things through life, don't we? And finally, this is a nice one from Martin Marshall, who says, a little late for Christmas, but Gerry Anderson tells all regarding how long the air would last in Space 1999 spacesuits. And he tweeted a picture of an article from Look-In magazine, which features your dad, Jamie. Yep. He says, a special Christmas welcome to you all. Our first question this week, says Gerry, is from Ian Scott of Brierley Hill, West Midlands, who would like to know how long does the oxygen last in the air tanks which they wear with the Space 1999 suits in Space 1999? And now your dad answers like this. Well, again, he says, putting a downer on things, we are dealing with fiction.
That's very dad.
Yeah, he says, I suppose it wouldn't be unreasonable to say that the oxygen in those air tanks would last around 6 hours. We base this simply on the moonwalks that we've all seen in real life. Paul Careys of Grays in Essex then wrote to ask, how did you make it seem that green liquid was being pumped into an alien's spacesuit in a UFO episode called Ordeal?
Ah.
Well, yes, said Gerry. In fact, Paul, we simply used a space helmet with a double-skinned visor. And the green liquid is pumped in between the two planes of perspex.
Nice.
There you go.
Letting you in all the secrets
I
there.
know. Yeah, from an edition of Look-In magazine. It says, you can write to me, says Gerry, at The Worlds of Gerry Anderson, Pinewood Studios, Ivor Heath, Bucks, SL0ONH. You will receive a free newsletter, a Star Cruiser sticker badge, and the most recent Dinky Toys catalogue. But you must include a large, stamped, self-addressed envelope. See you next week, Gerry Anderson. Yeah, isn't that lovely?
The days of SAEs. I remember those.
Now, that's interesting, the Star Cruiser sticker. I mean, this was obviously in the public consciousness to some degree because of the comic strip, I'm presuming.
And because Look-In was quite popular and it was off the back of Space 1999, so it was all tying into that, yeah.
Yeah. It's odd that it was never actually a thing, though, isn't it? That's what I mean.
No.
Really.
No, the strips were there and the model kit was there and the intent was there.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, never quite made it.
No, there we go. So yes, do tweet us using the hashtag Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Yes.
And just tell us stuff and I'll read it out, like I do.
Brilliant.
That's what I'm here for, really.
Type words, Richard says them, that's it. Off we go, done.
Yeah, posh. Yeah.
Good. Well, thanks for that. Very delicately put.
Thanks.
Would you like to welcome in another member of the crew?
Oh, I really would. It's been a while. Well, it's been a week.
It has been a week, and we missed him. We miss you so much, Chris. Do come back. Chris Dale, the randomizer himself. He's going to come and pick a random Gerry Anderson episode and watch it with
he does. Yeah, great.
So, should we let him do that?
Yeah, go on.
Off you go, Chris.
You wanted to talk to me?
What? Oh, yes, well, now that I'm with you, I must admit that for the moment the reason quite escapes me.
It's funny, I feel I've known you a long time.
Yes, well, time can be funny like that, can't it?
Why did you come to see me? I still don't know why.
Oh, Linda, does there have to be a reason?
What?
Oh, I think my ever-faithful wingman Marina might be worried I'm making a bad impression here. But I'm not, am I?
I think you're sweet.
Sweet? Well, I guess I can settle for that.
That looks very impressive.
What? Oh, right, the randomizer. Yes, very impressive.
Seriously, why all the questions?
Well, you see, I'm in need of someone to press the button today, and I was wondering if you might be willing. It's just the usual routine, really.
Just routine?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Okay. Why not?
Oh, lovely. You did press the button very well there, if I may say so, very forcefully. So, dare I ask which episode you might be hoping to see come up today?
I wouldn't do that if I were you.
Oh, surely it can't possibly be that bad. Let's see. And it isn't. It's...
Surrender.
It's Four Feather Falls today with...
You have no alternative.
Well, no. Are you feeling all right? You've suddenly gone a bit, weird.
I must go.
What?
I have to leave.
I can't be that bad company, surely.
I must go at once.
Whoa! Yes, maybe if you could just put me down, please.
Surrender.
Oh! 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 What a woman! Oh dear, she's gone. Well, I guess it's just you and me then, Marina, to watch Pedro Has a Plan. Help me up, will you?
The 4 feathers on this hat are magic. They enable Tex Tucker's dog and horse to speak, and his guns to fire without him even touching them. And now, another exciting adventure from 4 Feather Falls.
Well, from one western to another, we're back with 4 Feather Falls on the Randomiser, and again, as I've said several times, it wasn't planned that we have 2 slightly similarly themed episodes back to back like this. It's just the will of the Randomiser, it's just how it happened. And we're here with the episode Pedro Has a Plan. This is the 3rd episode, and going by that title, I suspect naughty old Pedro is going to have a plan of some sort to exploit the townsfolk of 4 Feather Falls in some way. It's just a feeling I have. Firstly, the fact, this series is not hugely surprising in the storyline department. It's not going to wow you with the fact that, he's got this huge money laundering scheme on the go or whatever. And secondly, the title is rather giving the story away. Anywho, here's Twink. He's not looking at us. Oh, now he is.
Expecting a bit of trouble in town today.
Ooh.
Tex has just been in to see me.
Oh, okay.
You remember Pedro the bandit?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say he's coming into town.
Oh, no.
I guess he's looking for trouble again.
Well,
if he does come, he sure will get it.
Oh. I'm packing heat. I mean to exact vengeance.
Don't know where he's hiding.
Oh, dear. Yeah, 3rd episode of 4 Feather Falls, so they are clearly trying to establish Pedro as a credible threat. Twink is quite scared there. Pedro's coming into town. But we know from the multiple episodes of 4 Feather Falls that we've covered that were made much later than this.
I'm thinking.
Pedro is about as much of a threat to the townsfolk as a light breeze. I think, generally, if you want serious villainy in this show, it's either Big Ben or the guest villains.
Today, Fernando.
Pedro just doesn't have it, but he's a great character nonetheless.
What would you say?
Firstly, the Kenneth Connor voice, and secondly, just that
The greatest man in all the West. The greatest.
permanently smiling face that's a bit sinister, but...
Magic guns, he always will be.
Ooh.
Unless someone kills him.
Ah. Kill?
I said you were very smart today, Fernando.
Oh. Well, okay. Talk of killing and murder, I wasn't expecting this.
Then I can run 4 Feather Falls my way.
Oh, he wants to take over the town again, yes. Again, we've seen that with the one where he tried to fix the election.
But he knows he's the best gunman around here.
So I guess that was his ultimate goal, was not just to get rid of Tex, but to take over the town? I don't know, between the two of them, do not seem like very good or effective administrators or facilitators.
He won't do it this time.
So what's their plan?
Got a big plan.
It's a big plan. A big plan. Well, it would have to be a big plan in order to make the title.
But wear your old hat just in case. Remember, Tex filled it with bullet holes the last time you were in town.
Yes, that's the first episode they're referring to there, which we haven't covered yet. We have done episode 2.
Your sombrero and Tex Tucker ain't gonna touch it. Why, it cost me $10. Cost you
$10? Oh, that was a lot of money back in ye olden puppet days.
Someone $10.
Okay, that's funny. I wasn't expecting that. Right.
It's my plan.
Okay, this is a very intricate plan. But first we have time for a song, and unfortunately, being back in the early days of 4 Feather Falls, we have to talk about the fact that some of the puppets do not quite look the part yet. In particular, we started in Tex's office. He's singing this song to little Jake, and Jake is looking a little unsettling at this point. He hasn't stopped looking directly at the camera since this scene started. The puppet was refined and looked much better down the line. Also, Tex here is very early days, and it's the lip mechanism, I think, more than anything. There's nothing going on in the mouth, at least not that I can see. So it just doesn't quite look as human as the characters later would. I admire this show for
There's a funny old
actively refining the look of the characters as they went along.
on the track. It goes to
Some characters are perfect right out of the gate. I don't think Pedro and Fernando had any work done on them majorly beyond the pilot. But there on the floor, sitting there, is Dusty. And Dusty, as I think I've said before, is perfection incarnate. He is just such a lovely character and a nice-looking puppet. But now we're zooming back in on little Jake, who's just...
When am I gonna be big enough to shoot a gun, Sheriff?
Whoa! Calm down there, partner.
Handle a gun. I hope...
When am I gonna be man enough to blast somebody right between the eyes, Sheriff? I want to get to the killing.
Tex, when I grow up, I want to be a sheriff just like you. And then I can help...
And if not, I'm gonna be a feared highwayman blowing people's brains out.
Wonder when he'll be paying us a visit. Reckoned he'd be here by now.
Guess you'll be ready for him when he rides into town, Sheriff.
Pedro won't...
Well, if everybody's ready for him, it's hardly worth him coming in. It would be better if he came in when everybody wasn't waiting for him. And then he could get up to some mischief unnoticed.
Home before any trouble starts.
But I guess that's not really the kind of show. I mean, I suppose it is a trope of the Western, you know, whenever the baddie's on the way into town, everybody knows about it. And that's Jake heading off home. Oh, there's Pedro.
Nice boy, that Jake. Should grow up into a real fine fella.
Or else I'm going to have to plug him.
Could do with a cup of coffee.
Ah, Pedro is at the window.
Dusty.
Yep.
He's got his eye on Tex's hat. I suspect this forms the backbone of the plan.
Tex, old bean, must we always have coffee? I'd much prefer a nice cup of hot tea, old chap.
You're gonna have coffee and like it, Rocky. Do you want folks around here to think that you're a dude?
Can I help it?
Pardon? A dude?
I come from a very fine family.
Okay.
It's about time you...
I was partly distracted by... Again, there's a close-up on Tex's face, and it's a bit disturbing. The mouth is just... I don't know. The puppet isn't fully formed yet. And he's a bit off-putting. Having seen the later episodes, I think if I wasn't used to seeing a better-looking puppet, this wouldn't seem so jarring. But the fact that I am is a bit sort of... Luckily, they sorted it out quite quickly.
No. I was expecting your boss.
So Fernando is shooting up the town.
Scared?
To lure out Tex so that Pedro can get into the office and steal that hat.
Don't waste time killing small fry like you, Tex Tucker.
It's a high-stakes plan, but I'm sure there are multiple levels and stages to make it a bit more than that, surely.
I'm the sheriff of this town.
Ooh, but he's not wearing the hat.
And I'm going to see that law and order is kept. And I'm going to
pull out his gun.
Like you and Pedro out of full feather falls.
Again, early days, he's not used to making sure he's always got the hat on. Slowly walking down the town to face Fernando. The town actually looks a bit shorter than it does here. I wonder if they later extended the set. I'm used to seeing it sort of quite spacious, but now everything seems really condensed.
His magic gun.
Oh no.
The magic anymore.
Pedro's in the office. He's taking the feathers.
My voice is gone.
Oh no. Dusty's lost his voice. This is serious. This is actually very serious. The dog has lost his voice.
Going for a walk, Sheriff?
Going funny walk? Oh, going for a walk. Okay. Oh.
You always have to sneak up on people, Pedro.
It's right mean. I don't understand why you do that, Pedro.
Sway, Sheriff.
Oh. So Tex he's got Pedro at one end, Fernando at the other.
Turn around.
He's outgunned.
Face me.
He hasn't got his magic feathers.
Drop your gun first.
I take back what I said about Pedro's plan. It was exceptionally simple and yet rather effective.
Nando behind.
Tex is having a bit of a derpy day. I think that's also a huge part of it.
Just how are you going to get out of this one?
Haven't you forgotten something, Pedro?
No.
Is it hat related?
Don't think so.
He's got those feathers in his back pocket.
Why doesn't the sheriff use his magic guns, Gramps?
Can I use your gun, Gramps? I got a hankering for some blood.
Sneaking suspicion that old Pedro has stolen Tex's magic feathers.
Of course, I was talking up a huge thing earlier about how I was going to plug him if he came into town, but
Somehow I just can't get up the energy to get over there.
3, 5.
I don't think you're gonna shoot me, Pedro.
Nah, it's only the 3rd episode. Come on.
What do you mean I can't count properly? Everyone knows that 5 comes after 3. But just to prove to you that I can, I'm going...
There is another number in between.
Before I kill you. 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh, he's rivaling Captain Magenta in the counting stakes, but what's this? Dusty has snuck up behind him to take the feathers back.
Okay, boy. Okay, we're back on the air.
Oh.
Tucker, here we come.
I don't know how Fernando didn't see that Pedro was having the feathers lifted off him there, but... Oh, yeah. Rocky is riding to the rescue. Okay, this is quite an intricate attempt at a fairly action-oriented shot they attempted there. Again, I don't think the length of the set quite accommodated what they were trying to do, but they had the camera held on Rocky and Dusty as they rode up past the text puppet, and he took the feathers off them.
You sombrero.
Oh, no.
I don't mind what you do to me, but please, not my hat.
It's no use, Pedro.
To be fair, Pedro, it's not the nicest hat you've ever worn. I think, you can do better.
Gonna shoot.
Oh.
1, 6.
Oh no.
9.
Please, Sheriff.
9.5.
No.
10.
Oh no! There goes the hat. And oh, I thought maybe he'd lose his trousers as well, but no, it's just shooting the hat multiple times.
Anything but just sit around and sleep, Pedro.
And now they're in jail.
I'm not sleeping. I'm working.
There's another plan coming.
Plan.
Oh
no, Pedro. Not another plan.
Oh, yes. Tune in next week for part 2, Pedro's plan. Oh dear. Well, anywho, that was Pedro Has a Plan. It didn't work, needless to say, but hey-ho, as an early episode of Four Feather Falls, and that was a very early episode, there's some good stuff there. I think the slightly unpleasant nature of some of the hero puppets there was it was a bit hard for me to deal with that, but on the whole it was a nice reintroduction to the show's 2 main villains, and of course the central concept of the magic feathers and how important those might be, and how serious it would be if they were lifted by baddies. So on the whole, I'd say that's a good episode of Four Feather Falls. Fairly simplistic, fairly basic stuff. The show would do better than that later down the line, but we're still early days. We've only just got going here, so for now, I'm going to say, thumbs up. We're learning, we're improving the show. We're going to get there, but this is a good effort.
Well, I mean, they say there's always magic in the air, but sometimes, less so. Oh, it's all right. It was an all right one, I suppose.
Of course it was. Yeah.
It's all very cute and sweet and all that.
Yeah. Also, we have met Tex Tucker, and that's pretty cool.
We did indeed.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, isn't it?
We've worked with Tex Tucker himself.
Yeah, who can say that?
Nicholas Parsons. Well, yes, not many people. That was a day to remember, eh?
It really was, yeah. It really was.
Anyway, for any of you who aren't sure what we're talking about, then do listen to, what was it called? I forgot. Sail of the Galaxy.
That's the one, yes.
Terrahawks Sail of the Galaxy, starring Nicholas Parsons as Nickel Plate Starsons.
That's it. Very good.
Zelda's ex-husband, because of course Nicholas was Denise's ex-husband in real life.
That's
it was
right.
A lovely art imitating life moment.
Yes, it really was, yeah.
Lots
could
of
have been
fun.
a disaster, actually, couldn't it?
It was very risky. Yes,
Yeah.
There were some slightly risque parts in there, weren't there?
Yeah.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
I think we should. Yes.
I think we're heading rapidly to the end of this podcast. To the what are the things called at the end of the tracks?
What? Oh, what?
The stops.
Do they have a name?
Are they called dead stops or something like that?
I don't know.
Oh,
Sounds very
hang on.
technical
I'm
to
going to
me.
have to ask the internet.
Oh gosh, dead stops.
Is that
Was that a digital thing? Or...
So a buffer stop.
Okay.
Or a bumper block. Or a stop block. Stop block. That's what I was thinking of. But that's the US version. Anyway, We're rapidly approaching that part of the podcast.
Well, we were.
Oh, I slowed us down. I pulled the handbrake. Anyway, is there anything else you want to say, or should we just go away?
No, let's go quick while we can.
Goodness me. Okay, thanks very much for joining on this train wreck of a podcast. And we'll see you or speak to you or something next week in Pod 245.
And remember, the light at the end of the tunnel is just the next podcast coming towards you.
Yay! Oh, dear. Bye.
See you then.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
Gosh, I think that's the most depressing description of a next podcast I've ever heard.
Do you think?
Yeah, it's nothing good coming. It's just another episode of the podcast coming to smash you in the face.
I mean, at least we're dependable. Week in, week out.
Yes, here to ruin your week every Monday.
Oh, no, let me get it off to a good start, surely.
For some people, yes. Yes.
If it ruined your week, you wouldn't listen, would you?
You certainly wouldn't listen this far.
You certainly wouldn't subscribe.
No, I think we can be fairly sure that anyone listening to this nonsense is relatively happy with the output. Or they're just listening for something to complain with. To beat us over the head with.
Yes, which is fair enough. There's plenty of that.
Hopefully that's not you, Postron. Thanks for listening to this other bit that we're talking about. And
nice to have you with us.
Anything else you want to say?
I've got nothing else to say.
Cool. Nor me.
But this 5-Star 5 interview.
Yes.
That I'm supposed to be doing.
Yes.
What do I do?
Chris Stale or somebody will send you an email and you can answer the questions. Is that all right?
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah, great.
Sure?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just
Good.
it's just nice to be told about these things.
Yeah, we've just told you, all right?
Oh, I see. Yeah, fair enough.
Go and prepare for your interview.
All right, I will. Just go and sharpen my pencil.
Good. All right.
Bye.
Don't know why you need that. Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.